Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 3 of the Get Design Clients Challenge. I hope some of you can join live, and I've got some great notes as well. So let's dive right in here. Please add as you see fit if you have any questions, something that doesn't make sense or that you've been kind of wondering about for your business. Otherwise, I'm just going to do some riffing here. So actually from yesterday, I had a question from Kyle, and he said, my main income stream now is through education. He teaches PDCs and some other workshops. So he's wondering, since he has some of that content from what he's been teaching, would finding a niche be the best idea as the next step for what he should do with that? So he's wanting to find a customer base for doing designs such as home, small scale landowners. Would that be a good audience to advertise a course to? And I would say absolutely. I think one thing to consider would be who's currently attracted to your permaculture design certification, your PDCs, and are those types of people who might want to hire you to do some landscape design work. They might be local, they might have flown in from another country. Looked like you might be in Thailand, Kyle, which is super exciting. So I hope wherever you are, you're enjoying that life. But really, a lot of different types of people are coming to PDCs these days. The different events I've been to, workshops, and other things, there's so many different types of people. Yeah, you have young college-age students who obviously, for the most part, aren't going to be hiring you to do a design. But then you've got people who are in their 40s, 50s, 70s, or, even in their, younger people who actually have the money or have an idea of how valuable your knowledge could actually be to them. So thinking about the types of people who are already attracted to your PDCs and ways in which you might be able to work with them as a designer. You could work in some aspect of the PDC, a small workshop that talks about your own design process, how you do things, so you can show people that you not only can teach, you can also do. You can also actually create designs that could actually help people and change the way they're living on their property. So I hope that helped a little bit, Kyle. Feel free to post in the video comments with any follow-up thoughts that any of you guys have. And so what I got into with day 3 was the top mistakes that I've seen myself and other people that I've worked around make in the past in a design business. And one of the biggest things that I faced when I was first starting out was this whole idea of scarcity mindset. Don't mind the sirens in the background. I'm in somewhat of a city. Scarcity mindset is something that is basically the opposite of the abundance mindset that we're taught to think about and live within and live from in the way that we're thinking about permaculture systems. So if I'm in an abundance mindset, I'm thinking my needs are provided for, I am freely sharing all of the information that I have with other people, and it just makes the world a richer place by sharing, and in turn, people and nature, the universe share with me, and then I am supported. That's more of an abundance mentality and mindset. And if you're interacting with clients, when you have a scarcity mindset, you're coming more from a place of fear. See the dirt under my fingernails? So coming from a place of fear about people saying no, about not having enough money, about needing this job so bad because you need some income, that it could cloud your interactions with people, and you don't come across as a genuine person, because our natural innate nature is not scarcity based, it's abundance based. We are, and I'm going to get a little bit woo-woo, but it's true, we are made of the same stuff as the galaxies, as the stars and planets. Those are all part of the universe. The planet Earth is of the same substance that we come from. We're all of the same source. So why wouldn't we be inherently, when we're our true selves, when we're our true personality, when we're living in the flow, in the moment, we're going to come across as a much more genuine person naturally, but we're also going to be more considerate and listen better to people, and be able to show them the creative ideas that we have that can really be of benefit to them, because being of service, being of benefit to other people is really in your true nature. And I think you all know that. You've gotten into permaculture because it's about creating abundance for everyone on this planet. So there were a lot of different client interactions I had when I was first starting out where I was just so kind of constricted and tight in my chest, and I was nervous that I had to give people the exact solutions to their landscape or other project right away, and I had to have all these ideas I was coming up with. And when I realized how much just the simplest types of responses or even broader ways of talking about things helped people, I was able to relax a lot more. And also just viewing my initial client site visits as a way to just hang out and get to know somebody. Because if you're doing that, you're going to end up talking about the project, but you're not going to put as much pressure on yourself because you've taken this kind of professional aspect of things, this kind of stuffy way of viewing things that is more fear-based, out of the equation. So being able to think about your interactions, not only initially with a client before you sign on with them, sign a contract, but as you move through the design process and as you check in with them months and years after your design project together, thinking about them as more of a friend or, part of the family, because that's really what they'll become to you when you're really running a business that's based on your own values and it is infused deeply with your own personality, is that the people you'll work with become good friends. And I just started doing a small irrigation installation for a friend of mine who I just met a couple weeks ago, and we're already good friends because the people that I'm attracted to are also into gardening, and they really value the same things that I do. So it's a great way to be able to connect naturally with people and not feel salesy about talking with them when you're walking around their landscape or their project site. So whoever is here, thank you for coming. I don't know why I can't see people's names until they comment, but feel free to add some questions if you'd like. So I'm going to talk about being honest with clients and being honest with yourself and your business. So what I'm going to focus on right now is that there are a lot of different things that come up in our interactions with clients during projects, where we might not be able to meet a deadline we set. Say we have a meeting to review some of the design plans next Wednesday. And next Wednesday rolls around and, it's Tuesday night and I know that I can't get what I said done. And a little bit of a tangent on that, you will probably overpromise and make some errors in your scheduling in terms of not giving yourself enough time to do things, saying you could get things done too, faster than you actually can, especially when you're starting out in your business. And that's totally natural. I still do it too, but I've gotten comfortable being honest with my clients and being able to tell them, hey, with a little bit of advance notice, hey, I can recognize these patterns in myself, and I can tell someone, I don't think I'm going to make this deadline, but I do have this amount of stuff ready we could go over if you want to, or, you can decide to wait and reschedule and suggest that to your clients. But in my experience, unless somebody is incredibly busy and they're out of town except for just this couple days and you have to meet them, people are usually really flexible in saying, okay, yeah, like we can reschedule, because what you're really doing is you're saying, hey, I haven't been able to create the value for you yet that I promised to you, and I want to make sure I follow through on that. So it's all about honoring them as the client and making sure that they're getting the best experience possible. No one's going to say no to that. They might be, they might need to shift things around, but that's their thing. You are also not responsible for other people's feelings, by the way, in your design business. So if someone ever gets really frustrated and is acting out in such a way as to make you uncomfortable, or, something's happening and, it's just not an ideal situation emotionally between you and a client, I would advise you to not, even if it's something that you did, to not take it personally and not be hard on yourself, because this is part of these mistakes that we can make as human beings. As I said in the email, if we weren't making mistakes, we'd be dead, because perfection is something that doesn't actually exist, as much as some of us would like to believe. As much as I thought I could be perfect, it actually made things a lot harder for me in my life when I was really thinking that I shouldn't be making any mistakes. So, man, like, kind of, yeah, that is an aspect of this whole honesty thing. So being honest with yourself and knowing that sometimes things won't work out perfectly. You might make a mistake or an omission, which is when you left something out on a design or you forgot to think of something. We all do it. I've done it before, doing stormwater management projects in Portland, and other aspects of a design where, the wrong plants came when we were ready to put things in, things like that. But really being honest with yourself, honest with clients, is basically the ongoing practice of being able to look at situations in such a way where you can not stifle emotions that you're having around it. You can still feel anxious or worried or upset in some way if if that's something that you need to work through, which often is in different situations. But really being able to address these issues that come up between you and clients, you and business partners. Thank you, Oren. So that you can really start to be straightforward with people and speak clearly and in a way that develops an even stronger relationship between you and your clients, because these issues actually end up creating a lot stronger bonds between you and whoever else is involved, which is kind of an amazing silver lining of all of these potential unknowns that can happen in your business that might be less than savory. So I feel like I could keep rambling for quite a while. If you guys have any ideas of what you'd like me to cover today, especially revolving around, those first interactions you're having with clients and getting comfortable in that experience of bringing people into the fold of your business and bringing them on as an actual professional relationship where there's an exchange of money happening, and the potential personal doubts you might have, or what I really love to focus on is some of this mindset stuff in the beginning, because we're going to keep confronting it no matter what. And things such as fear, like I was saying yesterday, I was almost paralyzingly anxious a couple times last week before I gave this talk on Tuesday at the local library, because I just moved to Florida. But those feelings are never going to go away. Even if I was living in one place for 10 years, I might still get nervous for various things, such as events I'm leading or a big contract I have that, okay, yeah, I got this $3,000 design job and now I have to deliver on it. And the anxiety and stuff, we each have our own way of carrying these emotions and expressing them in relation to the things that happen in our lives. And being able to sit with those things, and a meditation practice, for example, can be very helpful, or just spending time out in nature, having a daily ritual such as going on a run in the morning. Things like that can really help to create a constant in this ever-changing, ever-evolving world, and help support our own growth as not only professionals, but as our own person in the world, and really allowing us to be clairvoyant in situations, keep a cool head, and reach out for help if we need it when tough issues come up in our business and in our personal life. So that's another thing that I've really benefited from, is developing relationships. And I've mentioned developing professional relationships with other designers and contractors to then get referrals, because we all, if we have a successful business, we might have too many clients and need to hand off a potential client to another person, which could be you, or with contractors who offer, I guess you could call it, they're an allied profession. So they offer a complementary service to what you do. Say if you were a permaculture landscape designer, a plumber might be talking with someone who, just moved into a new home and they want to do a permaculture landscape and get it off on the right foot. They would then know to give you a call or send the client your way. But also those relationships have many benefits aside from that, such as being able to talk with some of these people who are business owners in their own right, and they They are contractors, so they have client relationships. It's not just permaculture designers who run into these issues. And honestly, when it comes down to it, if you're doing permaculture design, yes, there are things that could go wrong, but hey, at least you're not an engineer designing a bridge, or a plumber putting in hot water that if the pipe network failed, it could burn someone's family member, whatever. But the amount of risk involved in what you're doing is actually a lot less than a lot of professions. So that's a nice thing to be able to take to heart at the end of the day, and to know that there are a lot of other professionals out there within our field and around us who can offer some sound advice on issues that they've come up with in the past. So I'm happy to be able to offer that of myself to you as the professional permaculture designer community, but know that those people are also around you, either in your location or other people you might meet online. So listening to your clients is the utmost important thing, and I would dare say that listening in general is one of the best skills you can develop as a person in the world who is, well loved and respected, and really has meaningful interactions with other people. Because if we're not able to listen to someone else, regardless of whether they're a potential client or not, my girlfriend and I, for example, I've learned to be a much better listener. I'm working on it, because it makes our relationship that much closer. Listening builds trust because you're being present with somebody. And that's the best thing you can do as a professional designer, in building trust with your potential clients, with your potential business partners, referral partners, nonprofits you might do some work with. The list goes on and on. Being able to understand where they're coming from, and be able to maybe even set aside some of the things that are going on in your head for the time being, to be able to really address some of the things that you might be able to find common ground on. And finding common ground is listening helps you do that, in terms of really knowing the perspective of somebody else. So one aspect of being a good listener as it comes to your clients is when you have that initial site consultation with a client, and that's what I do for free. I do a free hour initial site visit to make it really easy for people to say, yes, I want you to come talk to me about what you do professionally. And when I'm actually at their home or project site, I am spending time listening to them. And also, that takes a lot of the pressure off of me, feeling like I need to run the conversation. I need to give them all these great ideas and show them how awesome and quick I am at design. That's really irrelevant, because that's a whole nother part of the design process. When you're first meeting with a client, this initial thing is led by you in a way, because you need to get certain information from them. But to get that information accurately and to be able to create a really effective and compelling design proposal out of that, you need to listen to them carefully. And I do take notes and things. And it'll get easier as you go on and on, because you start to recognize patterns in maybe different types of homeowners, or different personality types in people, of what they might be looking for and what might make them feel most comfortable and build trust in the best way. Some of those things can be taught, but really it's about getting out there and interacting with people. And a great way to do that is just to go to some local interest groups and talk with other like-minded people, because those types of people could be your clients, but they're also just very similar to the types of people you'll probably be interacting with when you're going around for permaculture design visits. So one thing that happened a few months ago, when I was working at a landscape company in Portland, Oregon, is that we were creating design proposals. And so this happens, it's the next step after this initial site visit. So you write up a proposal saying, this is what we talked about, this is what's going to be included in the design. This is also when I take my ideas about, okay, this person said this, but I know that this would get them really excited about working together and be something they hadn't thought of. So we include some of that in the design proposal, because it gets people excited. It shows them that we not only listen to them, so we kind of regurgitate, although it's a weird word, we spit that information back out on the page in the proposal, and then we take it a couple steps further and say, well, instead of this, you could do this. Or why don't we, instead of putting this flat roof over the deck, why don't we do a pergola with some beautiful hardy kiwi and grapevines, things like that. And being able to show people how you can come up with these creative ideas, and that's why they would pay you to do this, is because you are leading them along the path to this beautiful landscape or beautiful building, whatever type of permaculture design you're interested in. And so when we were doing these proposals, we'd often look at each other's ideas and our write-ups, and my coworker and I would be at meetings at the same time often, and we'd be able to fill in different things that someone had forgotten. Granted, if you're working alone, that's totally fine. I don't think you're really going to make any critical errors by not having somebody else there with you while you're talking to your potential clients, but it's just so important, and it's probably the biggest deal breaker in forging these professional relationships where you're trying to get a client to sign a contract when they're paying you some money up front for the design, to really show that you've heard them. Because if you haven't heard what they want, how can you provide exactly what they want and provide that much more value that they didn't even know they were going to get from you based on your creativity, your ideas, and your experience as a professional. So listening, whether it's to a client, whether it's to your mother, is always really great. And also there's a lot of patience involved with that, and not trying to put your own thoughts and ideas onto what your clients are saying, and really listening to them objectively. And it's kind of a meditation in and of itself, is just to be present with somebody while they're sharing with you a lot of different details about their life and where they'd like to go with their permaculture project. All right. So staying on top of the ball when you're communicating with clients is another potential deal breaker that a lot of people drop off the deep end on. And it's an easy mistake to make because we all get busy. We have different priorities. Most of us, including myself, are less than ideal at planning out our weeks or our plans for actually taking the steps necessary, these few steps that are very repeatable, but that we forget to take to get a client once we have first made contact with them and gotten their contact information. And I actually am working on creating some spreadsheets for this type of process to go through, so that I can take my time and have more clarity for working on my actual design work, and be able to say, in the spreadsheet, this date I'm doing this date I'm going to contact the client about the proposal, blah, 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 so that I can keep track of that, look at it once a day, something like that. And I'll be able to share that with you guys in the Professional Permaculture Designer course as well, which I'll be talking about more as we go along in the Get Design Clients Challenge. So communicating with clients, and so many people are just so busy. So don't be dismayed if someone doesn't get back to your voicemail that you left a week ago. Just give them a call. I would say, for contacting people, I'd say probably 5 to 7 days. Reach out to them again and just say, hey, I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing, if you've had a chance to look at this. Floating this to the top of your email inbox. It doesn't have to be an elaborate message, and in fact, it shouldn't be. It should just be very quick and bright and cheery, saying, hey, I'd love to see how you're doing and check in. And one thing that I learned, which has just been so helpful for me, and I don't always follow through with it, but when I do, it's always great and successful, is that whenever you contact somebody, especially when you're first starting that relationship, you should hit all of the contact methods that you can. So when you get someone's information initially, you should try and get their cell phone number and their email address, so that whenever you contact them, especially when you're starting out and you're trying to get those contracts signed for them to actually become a paying client, you should call them, you should also text them, and you should email them. And that depends on what is involved in that message. It could be that you emailed them the proposal for the design. So calling them and saying, hey, I emailed this, they might not pick up. Texting them as well, because you never know what type of communication style someone enjoys or is most drawn to naturally. And a lot of us have different preferences. For me, I would say mine, if I was working with a designer, might be email in this initial phase, but people are always either around their phone or their computer, so being able to touch base in various ways is really helpful. And I'd also like to reiterate that, once you finish working with clients or something special happens that made you think of a client, feel free to send them an email saying, hey, I was thinking of you, thought you'd enjoy this article or this video, or sending a handwritten letter to a client. I guarantee that would get you some major praise, at least help someone remember you. Like, no one sends snail mail these days. So thinking about these ways of communicating with clients, that not only can you be creative in the things you're talking about with them rather than just being very linear and businessy, but infusing your own personality into the way you interact with clients is going to create a more memorable experience for them. So they'll want to work with you. They'll want to refer you to other of their friends. And you'll also have more of your own personality infused in your business, which I'm always working more on, because if we don't have our business and our personal self, our business should be an outgrowth of our own self. We're the core, we're the embryo of that seed, and everything should be infused with our DNA as far as, the way that we structure our business, the way that create our personal lifestyle, and things like that. So I look at these things very holistically, and I invite you to do the same because it's so rewarding. So I'd probably have about 5 minutes left of this Q&A. I've got a Buddhist group that I go to on Wednesday nights, which I'm excited about. So I'm going to head out to that after we talk here. But if you have questions, drop them in. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going here. So making it easy to say yes. That's one of the mistakes that I covered. Is it's so easy to make the process confusing for clients in terms of how do they actually get to the point of just working with you and getting the darn job done, because everyone just wants to get that design done. They want it to be there so they can look at how pretty it is, get excited about it, and get it in the ground, or get it built, whatever's happening. Glad to hear it, Karen. Thanks for hanging out. It's always great to see you guys in here. And it's so funny when I respond to comments, I lose my train of thought. Okay, so making it easy to say yes. And if you don't spend the time thinking about making it easy, it's going to be hard for people, because you have to think about what I call the client pipeline of what is the process that someone takes at each step of the way to be able to get from point A to point Z in your permaculture design process, and to be able to think about how you would want to be treated and the type of feeling you would want to have as you go through this process is going to help a lot, because a lot of the people who you're going to be working with are going to share your similar values and the way that you like to do things. And it'll change over time. You'll find what works and what might not. But really, a big thing in the beginning when you're starting out with your business is an initial, what I call an onboarding process of when a client's getting to know you, when they're getting on board with what you're all about, and they're starting to really get excited and understand what exactly you offer and can provide to them. It's so easy to have that be very vague if you haven't thought out this client pipeline thing, because if you figure out, say, okay, I've got the initial contact, then I've got a site visit I do, and I've got my proposal, and then we create a contract, and the design happens, stuff like that. Then within that, it's just like I talk about creating quarterly or even broad yearly goals for your business. Once you have those broad benchmarks, then you can trickle down in a dendritic tree-like branching pattern, kind of fractally, from this larger concept of initial contact, proposal, contract. You can say, okay, this is what has to happen to make these things happen, and this is how we can make it smooth and easy, not only for you to be able to create these documents and provide this information to your clients, but for the client to just be like, okay, I know that this proposal will roll over into a contract once I signed it, and it's as simple as that. And I'll go into more of this in the Professional Permaculture Designer, because there's so much to this, yet it's so simple. But that's the funny thing, is that we actually have to design these things to be simple. And the greatest designs in and of themselves are all about simplicity. a lot of thought needs to go into things to make them flow really well. So making it easy for your clients to say yes, it's going to help you so much and take probably half the battle out of being able to score design jobs and get clients to pay you multiple thousands of dollars for a design, which I do. I'd like to say regularly, but since I just moved to Florida, I've got one design that I know is going to be happening at $2,400 in September, which is phenomenal. And I've got some other smaller jobs like irrigation installation to fill in the time being. But you'll start to get a feel for this process that can be used for either small design jobs or large master plans, which is what I do for residential homeowners, and which is why I'm able to charge a lot of money, because I've realized what my product is, and I am very good at conveying to my clients what the benefits are. And then I've got an easy process that they follow, which I'm happy to share with you guys as time goes on. So I'm going to leave you guys with a little thought for the day, and just kind of mull this over, maybe go for a bike ride or think about it while you're cooking a healthy meal, something like that. Talk about it with a friend. And I'm wondering, even if you haven't started your business yet, what feels right? What feels really good and makes you happy and feel warm inside when you think about your business? And what makes you feel uncomfortable? What makes you feel kind of tight and like you don't want to go outside? Focus on both of those things, and in your notebook or notes document for the challenge, write down what those things are. I'd love it if you guys shared that in the Facebook group itself, or email those things to me, because I'd really love to see that and to be able to understand better where you're coming from, so we can work together to create this really beautiful business that is not only making you income, but it's an outgrowth of the way that you really want to be in the world. Because the things that make us feel good, we want to do more of. The things that make us tense up, there's something else there that we need to unpack and take a closer look at, such as you might be really afraid to even talk about someone paying you money for doing a design. And, it's probably slightly difficult to be able to put words to exactly why that is. But think about the things that you're afraid of happening. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of when you think about someone, what their reaction might be to you saying, well, I charge $50 an hour for my design work, and I'd love to come, but I'd love to come for a free hour. And, it's going to help us all if we can share with each other what those things are. So I'd like you to spend some time thinking about that in a way that is self-supporting, and you're not beating yourself up about any doubts or anxieties, fears that might come up, because I have them too, guys, and I've gotten as far as I am because I've been able to, not fully consistently be able to sit with them and be comfortable moving forward, but I've been able to move forward enough that I'm where I'm at right now, being able to share with you guys my experience and how I've built a successful business, and I'm doing so again in Florida. So what can you do to change the things that make you uncomfortable or make you kind of freeze up when you think about your business? And one, is it a rational thought, or is it something that you think you could work through? And two, what's number two? What can you do to change that? I'm going to think a second. Two, is it something that actually needs to be addressed right now? Or is it something that we can set aside for later? And that's why you want to write those things down right now, is because it'll allow you to look back at them maybe tomorrow or the next day and be able to think, okay, is this fear or this doubt I have about getting clients or talking to people in person about paying me money for design work, is that something that I need to worry about today? Or is it something I can worry about a week from now, right after I get this person's phone number and email address, and then reach out to them to schedule a call and or a site visit? So I want you to think about those things in a way that is supportive of yourself, and you're respecting yourself by just being present and positive, rather than beating yourself up for having any fears or thinking, oh man, I really should have started my business by now, because those things are only going to hold you back. And I would love it if you guys would post in the group and share any of these personal things you might be going through, or feel free to reach out to me personally via email or Facebook message, and let's talk about these things and start to work through them so that we can move on toward helping the world, growing beautiful food, making amazing living spaces for the people that we care about, who are our clients, our family and friends, and really changing our lives for the better, financially, personally, whatever it is that makes you feel great. So with that, I'm happy to have spent the time with you guys today, and bon voyage.